I believe it's hard to overstate the importance of writing the best possible farm bill here in the Senate. When America desperately needs more jobs, and 1 in every 12 American jobs is tied to agriculture, this bill is an opportunity for the private sector to grow more jobs. When obesity rates are driving the American health care challenge, this bill can promote healthier eating without extra costs to taxpayers. When we're concerned about the threat to our treasured lands and air and water, this bill is our primary conservation program. When our rural communities are especially hard hit, and the President of the Senate knows about this because she's got a lot of rural country in her state, these rural communities are walking on an economic tightrope, and this bill can be a lifeline. Madam President, I spent much of last week in rural Oregon. In my state, Oregonians do a lot of things well, but what we do best is grow things, lots of things. Oregon grows more than 250 different crops, including everything from alfalfa seed to mint and blueberries. Several weeks ago, the Oregon Extension Service reported that agricultural sales in my home state increased more than 19% in 2011. Agriculture in Oregon is now more than a $5 billion industry annually, and much of this is driven by high prices for wheat and cattle and dairy products, fruits, vegetables, and other specialty crops. The fact is, agriculture is really the lodestar to prosperity for many rural Oregon communities. And nationwide, there are many other towns in a similar position to the small communities I have the honor to represent here in the Senate. There are about 38,000 farms in my home state, which roughly support 234,000 jobs. That's about 11% of our state's employment. As much as 80% of the agricultural goods produced in Oregon are sold out of state. Half of that is exported to foreign countries. That was especially important to me, Madam President, because I also chair the Trade Subcommittee on the Senate Finance Committee. And so what I have taken as the centerpiece of my approach to agriculture and to our country's economy is we ought to do our very best to grow things here in the United States, to make things here in the United States, to add value to them in the United States, and then ship them somewhere. And it's especially important for Oregon agriculture, as I just noted, that 80% of our agricultural goods that are produced in our state are sold out of state. Now, abroad, our producers are doing very well. Nationally, each $1 billion in agricultural exports is tied to approximately 8,400 American jobs. These growing overseas markets represent a way to create and sustain good-paying jobs that rely on export sales. In fact, agriculture is one of the only sectors with a trade surplus, and in 2011 it boasted a surplus totaling $42.5 billion, the highest annual surplus on record. From Burns, Oregon to Bangor, Maine, farm programs need to make it easier for those with low incomes to be able to eat healthier. And there never ought to be a trade-off between promoting good health and affordable food. And so I think we've got to look at some fresh approaches, Madam President, to promote healthy nutrition here in this country. And I believe that it is not just an economic threat to our country, it is also a national security threat to our nation, Madam President, because we have seen, regrettably, the many Americans who would like to wear the uniform of the United States, patriots who have not been able to pass the health exams, the physicals necessary to serve in our military. It doesn't have to be this way, and I want to outline some specific ideas for changing that to promote good health in our country without adding extra costs to taxpayers. One opportunity for change, Madam President, is through the Farm to School program. Again, without costing taxpayers additional money, it ought to be easier for delicious pears and cherries and other healthy produce grown just a few miles down the road to make it into our schools. And again, this ought to be a national approach. I was in Oregon last week. I had a chance to meet with the management of Harry and David. They're a major employer in my state, an Oregon pear producer, and they told me they want to sell their fruit to schools down the street, but instead a complex maze of federal rules and regulations has been a hassle. I mean, pretty much described something that sounded like bureaucratic water torture. So I'm going to offer an amendment, Madam President, that would make it less of a hassle for producers such as Harry and David and farmers to sell directly to local schools, all without spending additional federal dollars. A second opportunity to improve our nation's health, Madam President, lies with the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is better known as food stamps. Let me make clear, I am not for cutting benefits. I understand the crucial lifeline this program provides for millions of our people. What I am interested in doing is seeing that through that $70 billion, it's possible to wring more value for good nutrition and improving nutritional outcomes out of that enormous expenditure. And one of the ways that we can do it would be to allow states to obtain a waiver from the SNAP program. A third opportunity for improvement, Madam President, is through what's known as the Gleaning program. In Portland, Oregon, a wonderful nonprofit organization run by Tracy Osrin is known as Urban Gleaners, and they are poised to collect surplus food, hundreds of thousands of pounds of food, from grocers and restaurants and parties and all kinds of social organizations, and they redistribute those hundreds of thousands of pounds of food to organizations that serve the hungry. Urban Gleaners is doing great work, but they could be doing a lot more, Madam President. So again, without spending a dime of extra money, we can advocate for gleaners all across America, Madam President, by making it possible under the micro loan program. If you're trying to set up a gleaning program in a small town and you have to borrow, say, $20,000 to start a refrigeration program to preserve the quality of the food, let's make it possible for the gleaners to be part of the micro loan program. Next, Madam President, to produce the healthy food needed to feed America, we need fertile agriculture, and conservation plays a central role in that. Roughly 28% of Oregon's land mass is devoted to agricultural production. Maintaining this land is crucial for our productivity. For more than half a century, the Farm Bill has supported infrastructure modernization and conservation projects. They give, once again, the opportunity for collaboration, and that's key to our natural resources. The time is also ripe to promote farmers markets and locally grown food, which will lead to greater awareness of local markets, roadside stands, and community-supported agriculture. This Farm Bill expands those opportunities, and I think, once again, these types of local initiatives give us the opportunity to change the trajectory, the tragic and staggering trajectory of obesity in this country, and to ensure the viability of these programs, the land required to produce nutritious foods must be addressed. This bill, at a crucial time in American history, can help us grow more jobs. It can help us improve the health of the people of our country without spending additional money. It is an opportunity to protect our treasured land and air and water. And finally, it is a lifeline for these rural communities, these communities that I've described as walking on an economic tightrope.